Welcome to the call. Welcome to the call, all millionaires. My name is Ahmed Nancy, and it is such an honor to be the host of the call this evening. Thank you all so very much for calling in, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the self-esteem development training call, Obsessed with Success. Just in case this is your first time calling in, I'd like to be the first person to inform you that we do have these calls each and every Wednesday, and they are always filled with strategies and tips on self-esteem development, entrepreneurship, as well as secrets of the super wealthy. Trust me, millionaires, you never want to miss one of these calls because they can totally change your life the way that they have mine. And it's not just me. These calls have helped thousands of people throughout the United States of America. So it is with special excitement that I'm so pleased to introduce to the line Mr. Haziq Ali. Mr. Ali is the most selfless person that you ever meet. He devotes all of his time to providing service and fights the war on poverty just so we all can win. It's because of this we affectionately call him the General. Mr. Ali is an author, a self-esteem development expert, my personal coach, my mentor, and my friend. Now let me step out of the way and introduce to the line Mr. Haziq Ali. Are you on the line, sir?
Yes, I am, Ms. Nancy. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Please take it away.
Okay. Welcome to Obsessed with Success, episode number 168. We're also reporting to you live from Facebook, so, you know, that's a good thing, something that we're trying out differently. It should allow you to be able to even look at the replay and some of the visual things that we're going to do. You'll be able to have sort of an inroads into that, so that's going to be pretty cool. Millionaire, this episode right here is going to deal with some things that are sort of, I guess you would call magical, and then we're going to deal with some things that I guess you would refer to as being more practical. I believe that this is one of the most important subjects that we could possibly cover when you're talking about being obsessed with success, because of the idea that everything starts with your plan. Everything starts with your preparation. So today we're going to cover the 4 uses of visualization. We're going to talk about some famous visualizers throughout history. We're going to talk about the 3 building blocks of creativity. Hey, everybody, how y'all doing? We're going to talk about discovering your learning style by using visualization. I think that's going to be very helpful for you. And then we're going to talk about these guidelines that you should think about when you're looking to program what we call your reticular activation system. And then we're going to finish this bad boy off with some really powerful techniques that are going to allow you to plan out your day both daily, weekly, monthly, etc., so forth. Like, I think you're going to really get something from this. Hopefully I've given you enough time to kind of like reach out to family and friends, and you are ready to begin. We are starting with episode number 168 of Obsessed with Success. Okay, millionaires, well, welcome. Lurking deep within the recesses of your mind, right, is this power that even the most intelligent animal can't claim. This is a power that's been used since at least 60,000 BC by some of the most incredible people history has ever known from all walks of life. Of course, I'm talking about the power of visualization. It's one of the most incredible tools you have at your disposal for creating personal change, and it's been around since the beginning of time. Aristotle, if you guys remember that from history class, Aristotle, he famously said the soul cannot think without pictures. Or if you look at Einstein's theory of relativity, it came to him in sort of like a waking dream. You know, his discovery about how the benzene molecule worked, it came to him in sort of like a daydream. It all happened through visualization. First, you have a thought picture, and then you translate it into action. When you think about moving your hand, first you pictured moving your hand. Then it became an action. I hope I'm making sense. Here are 4 things you can use visualization for. You can use it to increase self-esteem. You can use visualization to uncover what we call self-conscious roadblocks. You can use visualization for habit control. And you can use visualization for self-healing, believe it or not. Today, we're even going to discuss the relationship between visualization and goal achievement, which is a lot deeper a relationship than maybe you've ever been trained to think about. And once you've completed this mini triathlon we got for you, you're going to have a full understanding of some techniques you can immediately use to supercharge your results and pretty much guarantee success in any area of your life that you choose to focus it on. Now, I'm not promising you it's going to be easy, but what I will tell you is it's pretty simple. This is a lot of stuff you're really going to be kind of remembering. Here, it's perfect for us because we focus on self-esteem development. We focus on mental toughness. But let me tell you something. You can use this for anything. We've, matter of fact, been unconsciously using visualization all our lives. Imaging, visualization, programming your dreams. This should be a part of your daily life. One of my mentors always says, if you don't have a plan for yourself, then guess what? You're going to end up falling into somebody else's plan for your life. And guess what they got planned for you? Not much, right? The most successful people in the world have this talent for translating their goal into a physical vision that utilizes all five senses. This guy named Stephen DeVoe. He's the president of CyberVision. That's a good company to Google, CyberVision. They did this study of MBA students with Harvard, Yale, Stanford, and what they found out is that the most common characteristic, I'm talking about this is the one that shows up no matter what you're doing, is that chief officers and major heads of major corporations, they all, and I quote, these people knew what they wanted out of life. They could see it. They could taste it. They could smell it. They could imagine the sounds and the feelings associated with their goals. They actually believed they had it, and they behaved as if they had it before they achieved the dream. Think about that. This sensory, this sharp skill of sensory, even before it has manifested, became one of the most powerful driving forces in their lives. How many of us have heard of Roger Bannister? Of course we have, right? This is the first guy that broke the 4-minute mile. But here's what I don't know if a lot of people talk about. He did it with almost no study. He did it. He was studying to become a doctor at the time. He didn't have time to get out there and practice with all these athletes. Now, since the beginning of time, they knew nobody could break the 4-minute mile. Everybody knew that. So it's sort of mind-boggling that here's a guy that bested not only every other athlete that was in the competition that day, but he broke a record that had stood since time was getting recorded. Everybody knew you just couldn't break the 4-minute mile. Well, see, not only did that blow me and you away, you know who else that blew away? That blew away Roger Bannister. You know that blew him away to such an extent that from there he became a neurologist? Roger Bannister became a neurologist after he broke the 4-minute mile because he was so blown away that the obvious cause of how he beat everybody else in that race and shattered a world record was all in his mind. In Psycho-Cybernetics, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he talks about how Conrad Hilton, that would be Paris Hilton's granddaddy, used to visualize owning these hotels way before it was feasible. Or Bruce Jenner, I forget what his name is now or her name is now or whatever, but Bruce Jenner famously talks about how he never considered himself a real athlete. Bruce Jenner's whole claim to fame was that, and he would talk about this in all these motivational speeches he would give, right? The 1976 Olympics, he was running a decathlon. He ended up winning a gold medal. His wife could tell which event he was practicing because he had set up a hurdle in his living room. He would just practice mentally every single evening after dinner. It got to the point he would do it in his sleep. His wife could tell which event he was imaging based on how he moved his body. Visualization, millionaire. And he'll tell you in a minute that he wasn't an athlete. You got to see it. You got to feel it. You got to be able to touch it. You got to see that bank deposit. You have to see it hit the account. You got to see yourself having increased confidence and motivation with every call you make. You got to picture your prospects getting excited with the service you provide or that product that you gave them. They're so excited that they're sharing it with everybody they know happily. You got to hear yourself on stage. You got to feel the weight of that trophy in your hand. You have to feel that ring on your fingers, right? Now, maybe it's hard for you to picture yourself doing some of this, but that's the skill, isn't it? What will be the hardest for you to picture? Maybe you can't see yourself making phone call after phone call after phone call, regardless of the result. Well, guess what? You can picture it in advance. You can give yourself a little head start by just picturing it before it happens. Picture yourself as you close the sale. You got to get it to the point where you can't wait to sit down and start to create your dream. Millionaires, they ask me how I'm doing it. How have I been the top person in my company ever since I even heard of this industry? You know, I'm in a form of entrepreneurship that I'm not only a coach and a mentor and have this consulting firm, but it's the whole idea that I also am in something called network marketing. And they ask me, how have you been the top guy ever since you discovered the industry? Well, it's because I say my affirmations every day. Listen to me. We've all seen The Secret. We've all watched the TV shows. We've all read the books. We all know we're supposed to be doing our affirmations. But who does it every day? I do, right? We do. A bunch of y'all know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, hashtag Affirmation Nation, right? You know what I'm talking about. We're there 7 days a week. Listen to me. The reason you can tell, or one quick way to tell nobody is really doing it, is because when you look around, there are way more peasants than princes. There are way more people that are living in mediocrity instead of royalty. You see it. Meditation, visualization, affirmations, I cannot overstate their importance. Who remembers that scene from Martin Luther King when he was doing, it was called Selma. It opens up with him winning the Nobel Peace Prize, which you know we're going to win for changing the education system. But with MLK, they open up with this scene. And how many of you guys remember that bridge scene where they were crossing the bridge and then somehow he seemed to get some kind of like transmission from the universe that told him don't even cross this bridge. Now he ends up doing it a little while later to massive success. But what made him stop in his tracks when he was about to cross that bridge? Or what about that I Have a Dream speech? Did you know that, yeah, he had some talking points written out, but the whole part about I Have a Dream was a freestyle? Did you know that just came to him? Right? The most famous speech in history, probably, the most famous parts of it was a complete freestyle, complete stream of consciousness. Well, guess what MLK did every morning? Every morning, he would sit there, most times with the lights off, and he would meditate. He would image his day out until he could see around the corner. One of my favorite visualizers of all time is a guy named Nikola Tesla. This is a guy that was around at the same time as Edison, at the same time as Einstein. Everybody gives him the power and the credit for inventing alternating current, which is basically the energy source for every country in the world. I want you to think about that. This was barely 100 years ago. And in his brain, he was able to create something that now serves every country in the world. But did you know that he built the first AC motor in his mind first? The components, the brushes, the gears, the apertures, he turned it into a finished product in his head. And then for the next 3 months, he just turned it on. He let the motor run in his mind continuously for the next 3 months. Then after 3 months was up, he closed his eyes, put himself into a deeper, relaxed state, right? And then he mentally took the motor apart. And then he'd note which parts wore out the quickest, which parts needed replacement. Then, after that 3-month trial period, he went and built the world's first electric motor, and it worked perfectly the very first time. Millionaires, this is visualization. Remember Roger Bannister? We talked about the 4-minute mile and how it was this insane achievement. But they asked him one time, they said, hey, what was your proudest achievement? It was the 4-minute mile, huh? He was like, no. He felt much prouder of his contribution to academic medicine through his research into the responses of the nervous system. Millionaires, your nervous system is what you're cutting on with your brain that allows it to begin creating the experience before you experience it. When they hook these astronauts up and they hook these athletes up and they have them run the race in their mind, what they find out is that the muscles fire just like they were really doing it. Your brain can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. And here's what I want you to realize. The person that came in second, this is what I want you to realize about visualization, because some of your friends aren't going to want to do this. But do you know Roger Bannister only had the record for breaking a 40-minute mile about 46 days. 46 days. But do you even know the person that did it second? You have any idea who did it second? Well, I do because I looked it up. His name is John Landy. But here's my point to you. You got to go first. Nobody knows the name of who came in second. You got to do it while the getting is good. So let's go into the first test of this particular class. What kind of visualizer are you? Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you can't close your eyes right now, then just wait and watch this broadcast later, or wait and check out the replay later. But we're about to find out what kind of visualizer you are. I want you to close your eyes for a minute, and let's go through this. Okay, here's the first part of it. Close your eyes. If you can see me, your eyes aren't closed. Okay, good. Close your eyes and count the windows in your living room. Count how many windows you have in your living room. That's called visualization. Now, stand there in the middle of your living room and just do a 360. Just turn all the way around the room. Look for the knickknacks that are on the dresser. Look for the position of every piece of furniture in the room. Look for the pictures on the wall, the paintings. Kneel down and kind of rub the carpet with your fingers. Feel how the carpet, feel how soft it is underneath your fingers, right? When you put your finger up, is there any like lint on your fingers? You know, is it a brand new carpet? How does it smell? This is visualization. But also, this is imagery. You see how it's involved in the other senses? The difference between visualization and imagery is pretty important. What you need to know is that visualization is seeing it, and imagery can be auditory, where you're hearing yourself. Kinesthetic, it could be where these are the thoughts where you can feel it. It could be already said auditory. It could be olfactory, where you're kind of like smelling it, like the smell of a barnyard, for instance. Kinesthetic, you can tell kinesthetic because maybe you're in that vibe where you can feel and touch the icicle. You feel the bumps on the icicle in your finger, right? That would be kinesthetic. That means you learn through feeling. And about 65 to 70% are visual, about 20% are kinesthetic, where they feel the images in their body, and then 10% are auditory, where they transfer their thoughts, they transfer colors, they transfer things like that in a sound. Pharrell comes to mind when I think about that one. He even had a project with his group NERD that was called Sing Sounds. He talked about how when he looks at paintings, he can hear the painting. You know, it's an interesting thing. But how do you learn? We're about to find out. Here's what you have to do to figure out what kind of learner you are, what kind of visualizer you are. This is a quick little test for you. Pretend to describe, and pause this recording if you're listening in, but this is just a way that you can tell. Pretend to describe a day at the beach. Pretend you're describing a day at the beach to a close friend. Use 6 to 8 sentences. Only 6 to 8 sentences. Describe this day at the beach. You know, and this is a good time to pause it. So again, you're pretending to describe a day at the beach you had to a friend in 6 to 8 sentences. Here's what we find out. If you describe the color of the skies and the clouds and the silhouette of the sailboat against the blue sky, right? You're a visual learner. But if you describe like the texture of the sand underneath your toes, maybe the gentle breeze on your face or the warm sun on your body, maybe you describe the feelings of inner peace and that just calmness that you felt. Well, that means you're a kinesthetic learner. Now, if you focus on the sound of the waves and maybe the radio playing in the background and a seagull squawking overhead, then you're auditory. Millionaires, there are ways to improve the other forms of learning even after you discover what your main form is. Here's how you do it. You start with your main connection to the world, like let's say it's kinesthetic. So picture yourself feeling that tree, right? Feel the tree bark, like you know, but now start to use your other senses, right? Like, how does the tree smell? Look on the tree for the ant. This is all in your mind. This is all like how you're making your imagination muscles flex, right? Is there some sap coming out the tree? Okay, maybe taste it a little bit. This is the whole thing, right? The more of these techniques you use, your brain starts to develop much thicker wiring. It develops these thicker connections in between the cells. We call them synapses. In other words, using more senses helps you to get smarter. And it helps you to have to use less energy with solving problems. I hope that makes sense to you. You want to utilize your whole brain, because when you can put your whole brain into play, instead of your vehicle having to work on one tire, you got all four pumped up. Wouldn't it be a little bit easier to drive if all four of your tires got air in them? Okay, so let's move along. There are 5 types of visualization I thought it was important for you to know. One type of visualization is spontaneous. That's the kind that just pops out of nowhere. Have you ever smelled something and then boom, a whole image pops into your head, right? That's spontaneous. Number 2 is induced. It's where you're intentional, like you want to sell your property, so you picture a sold sign on it. That's called induced. I know I'm going fast, but listen to the replay. Sorry, y'all. The third one is concrete. Concrete, abstract. That's where you, maybe if you're trying to stop smoking, you picture this no smoking sign in your head, and you just visualize that whenever you're, walking past the store you normally buy cigarettes from, et cetera, and so forth. And then, so that would be the concrete. And then the abstract would be, maybe you would picture healthy lungs. You would picture getting finished with the race and being just joyous instead of worn out and just slumped over, right? The fourth type of visualization would be general. General or specific, which means that maybe you're picturing yourself being healthy. Every morning, one of our affirmations is, I am completely healthy, right? But maybe you're also picturing specific muscles healing. Maybe you've got a lot of, maybe you've got a breathing issue, or maybe your knee hurts, or maybe you've got an arm hurt. So if you're doing specific, then you can start picturing that muscle healing itself. The fifth one would be what we call in-goal / process visualization. Now, what that has to do with, okay, here you are holding the trophy and stuff, but then what the second part is, did you picture yourself making those phone calls? Did you picture yourself doing those events? Did you picture yourself knocking on those doors and having those presentations? Did you picture the process? So those are the 5 types of visualization. And it's important, man, because imagery is just process made visible. Here are 3 myths about visualization I think it's important for you to know. Here are 3 myths. The first one is that people think you need vividness and clarity as the most important part of it. On Affirmation Nation, we talked about the 4 sort of segments of visualization. You can ask one of the members, because that's some bonus material that only they have, right? But let me tell you something. Vividness and clarity aren't actually the most important part. The most important part of everything is control. You see, you might not see it super clear, but what you want to do is make sure, if you're practicing golf, that you want to make sure that ball goes directly into the cup every time. Not it barely makes it, not it rolls around the edge and then falls in. You want to make sure it goes directly in. Here's the second myth. People think that if they can only see a fragment, that their visualization sucks. Not true. Even a fragment can imbue your other senses. Just the power of association can make that visualization come alive in your mind, just because of the fact that you caught a small fragment. Same way we just talked about a smell clicking on a whole memory in your head. Here's the third one. People think pacing isn't important when they're going through these images in their head. It's very important. If you're somebody that's really quick on the draw, then yeah, run through your images quick. But if you think more slowly and methodically, if you're more analytical, then go through them slowly. Stress happens when a rabbit tries to move like a turtle, or a turtle tries to move like a rabbit. Just be who you are. Now, what I'm going to do now is give you 5 different techniques. Actually, I'm just going to give you 4. And the reason I'm going to give you 4, right, is threefold. The first reason is that I don't want you to get bored, keep using the same technique over and over again. The second reason is that you might have the perfect technique for one situation, but then a whole different goal deserves a different technique, or a different technique would have more synergy with it, right? The third reason is that a greater repertoire in your tool belt increases the likelihood you're going to find one that's right for you. So these are kind of trippy, but you guys ask me all the time what my little secrets are, and so I'm telling you. This is going to sound weird, but hey, whatever. All right, here's the first one. The first one is what we call collage images. Now, this is what we do with our vision board on Affirmation Nation. We have a digital vision board on Instagram. That's We Are Millionaire Minded. You know, Millionaire Minded is this whole team for mental toughness for entrepreneurs. We're basically just this organization that helps entrepreneurs from all these different types of companies to create the mental toughness that results in higher self-worth, which equals higher net worth. That's our whole purpose, to increase self-esteem and mental toughness. Well, we have an Instagram page that's designed to allow people to revel in their favorite vision, right? Just revel in it. Well, that would be collage images, where you take 5 or 6 different aspects of your goal having been achieved and you visualize them with habit. A second technique for you is what we call multi-focus technique. So this one is really trippy. But first, you want to visualize a beam of light from your head, and you want to astral project a picture of the image. See, I'm giving you different techniques because they're going to work different parts of your brain and get different parts of your brain kind of flexing that you don't use as much. So this is a fun one. Pretend like you're in Star Wars. Project that beam of light from your forehead and see the goal levitating like 6 feet in front of you. Then do the same thing from your heart, right? And then do the same thing from your solar plexus. And then merge all 3 of the images together. You can spread them out. You can merge them back down, like kind of have fun with that. But the whole point being that you're giving yourself this 3D vision, kind of like this holographic quality to the image so that it synergizes your mind, your heart, and your soul. Told you it was trippy. All right, here's a third one. We call this the whoosh technique. Whoosh. Now, what whoosh is about is kind of starting the image off really drab and black and white in your head, and then whooshing that away in a couple seconds and coming in with the full, vivid, clarity, full color, just so bright it gives you chill bumps of the same image. The fourth one, because we got to get out of here, is disassociation. So if you've seen the movie Get Out, that's sort of the technique that they were showing us his hypnosis with, where he would see himself outside himself. First, he would see himself like himself, where he's looking through his eyes. Then he would see himself outside himself, like he's an out-of-body experience kind of thing. Millionaires, that is a powerful technique. And then you switch back and forth with it. So here are 3 more tips. Always use enthusiasm. Like go for the gusto, man. This gets your limbic system working. It gets all these other parts of your brain that I don't even want to bore you with. But the bottom line is get excited. It's a good thing. Trust me. The second thing is your left and your right brain want to be operating at the same time. The best way to do that is focus and playfulness. Focus and playfulness. That'll get the left and right brain going. And then the third tip is be okay with sort of symbolic imagery. You know, you might picture a helicopter, and that means a lot more than just a helicopter to you. That's okay. That may start to happen after you've been visualizing a specific goal after a while. Or you might just see the trophy, or you might just see the podium. I would practice hearing the screams in my head. I would see people clapping. I would hear them saying my name. Please use this, millionaires. Psychologists and counselors are kind of useful when you get deep into this stuff, because a lot of us don't realize this, but we're working against ourselves. Millionaires, you always get what you want, even if it's not what you asked for, even if it's different from what you asked for. That sounds weird, right? But people have mixed emotions. Mixed emotions are what causes all those almost made it. Like you keep having messed up relationships, or you keep on having these brink. You'll get right to the edge of your success, and then it'll fall apart and crumble in your fingers. All those almost made it moments are coming from the fact that you're dealing with mixed emotions. Say it's something like money. You might think money will give you freedom and security and the ability to help all these people. But then you also might feel like having a lot of money makes you manipulative and greedy, and it makes you shallow. Those are mixed associations, and you're killing yourself. It's like you're driving with the brake on and the accelerator, and you keep pushing them back and forth. How fast can you go? But here are the tools that you need to kind of like sculpt this raw material of exposure and programming and thoughts and feelings and actions and results. Those would be the raw materials of it all. But how do you sculpt it? It's easy. Desire, expectation, and imagination. And if you guys have been with us a while, then you already know all about desire, et cetera, so forth, right? But the most powerful between desire, expectation, and imagination, it's got to be expectation. Millionaires, if you don't look up nothing else from this training, study the placebo effect. What you're going to find out is that every single placebo study, it focuses almost strictly on expectation. They'll give them a sugar pill, and a sugar pill will be 32% to 78% as effective as a pill being tested. I don't care if it's medication for pain. I don't care if we're talking about blood sugar. It's all self-fulfilling prophecy when you're talking about expectation, and it's all because of the power of your subconscious mind. What kind of athlete says, I didn't expect to win anyway? The athlete who doesn't win. But where does all of this come from? This is going to trip you out. Where does desire come from? Where does imagination come from? Where does expectation come from? It comes from our dreams, millionaires. And I'm talking about literally your dreams, like when you go to sleep, your dreams. They opened up this thing called the Dream Lab, the first one in 1951 at the University of Chicago. And they've built all these dream labs since. And one thing that they're all certain of, one thing that they're all just doing a consensus of, they're all in agreement. The dream cycle that you go through every 2 hours when you're asleep is showing you probable and possible futures. But here's what's crazy. Our dreams are important for another reason, something called apoptosis. This means the cell starts to decompose once there's no purpose for it. Millionaires, they even have a thing out in, they did this study at the University of California where they looked at something that I think is mind-blowing. They looked at the power of belief to postpone death. They even used belief to postpone death, right? They looked at the deaths of like 1,300 Chinese women for the 25-year period from 1960 to 1984. All they wanted to know were the death patterns the week before the Chinese moon, this Chinese Harvest Moon Festival, and then the week after the festival. Here's what they found out. There was an average 35% drop the week before the festival, and then a 35% increase above the norm in deaths after the festival. Why? Because in the Chinese Harvest Moon Festival, elderly women play a central role. Now, this mortality pattern didn't affect Chinese elderly men. It didn't affect younger Chinese women. It was only elderly Chinese women. They see the same thing with Jewish Passover because the men participate. 34% drop the week before Passover, 35% increase the week after Passover. Goals are so magical that people can even postpone death. So here are 3 guidelines for programming your mind so that you are willing to sort of use some of the power that you have. Millionaires, there's so much that could help you achieve your dreams you never even noticed because you haven't even defined what you want with clarity. And by define, we mean teaching your brain what's important. You know when you buy a new car and you start to see it everywhere? Well, that's because it's become relevant to your brain. You made it important by involving all your senses. Because you rented the car, you now know how it smells. You know how the seats feel. You know how the steering wheel feels in your hand. Because of the fact that now you rented the car, you know how it speeds up around the curve or how it slows down before it goes over bumps. But do you know that about your dreams? Here are 3 guidelines for programming your reticular activation system so that you can see it when it shows up in your life. Here's the first one. Commit now. Commit now to spending 10 minutes each day with these techniques we're about to give you. Spend 10 minutes each day for at least the next 4 days. If you commit to that, be like, I commit in the comments. But I commit in the comments if you're willing to commit to that. The second one is, as you work on the goal-setting exercises, constantly ask yourself 2 different questions. 1, what would I want from my life if I knew I could have it any way I wanted? And 2, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? Here's the third one. You got to have fun. You got to remember that night before Christmas Eve when you still believed that Santa Claus was real. Nothing was too big. Nothing cost too much. Nothing was out of reach. That's that sense of expectation you got to have as an adult because now you're more able to do it than you were as a child. some would say. Depends what kind of parents you had, I guess. I got some friends that were spoiled, but not me. You know, for me, it's much easier now, let me tell you. But millionaires, give each of your goals a timeline, 6 months, a year, 10 years. We're going to highlight that top 10 goals. And then how we're going to end this is that I want you to remember this, right? You never leave the sight of a goal without first taking some form of positive action towards its attainment. Right now, take a minute to define the first steps you must take to achieve your goal. How would you feel if you had mastered your time and made all of your goals happen a year from now? How would you feel about yourself? How would you feel about your life? If you answer these questions, you'll start to develop these compelling reasons that'll push you through the valleys up to the peaks. And then after you have a goal, it's time to break it down into sections. So let's do this. The first part of it is that you want to have your goals for the year, right? And that doesn't even really have to be the first part of it, but that's one of them. The second one is your goals, your profit and loss statement for your time, like what kind of habits you're putting in place. The third one, we call it eat the frog. Eat the frog. We'll get into that in a minute. And then the fourth one is you need a participation calendar. Millionaires, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to be willing to participate. You've got to get in the mix of action. There are people around you who you know right now that you haven't seen in weeks or months or years, and last time you saw them, they couldn't even help you because you weren't even doing what you're doing now. Millionaires, get out there and get involved. You need that participation calendar. But what I've got for you, because of the fact that this is a special time in our millionaire development, right? I got like a special sort of announcement. We here at Millionaire Minded have just developed the world's first, check this out, if you're watching on Facebook, check this out. We've developed the world's first visualization and affirmation coloring journal. And it says coloring book because this is the first version, but we're going to call it a coloring journal. I want you to realize how much this is going to help with your visualization. Now, I've always been taught to kind of like visualize and draw different things in terms of draw the image in your head that you want to manifest, right? Well, check this out. You can use the note pages to take notes while you make calls. You can use it to rewrite your goals over and over again. You can use it to make it a personal activity report. You can make it a success journal, but make it millionaire minded, right? Now check this out. The whole coloring book is full of vision board images. You got note paper. You got a quote. You know, sometimes you're making your phone calls. You want to kind of take notes about that person. Or you can use this to write your goals over and over and over again. But then you got just dream images. I mean, look at some of this. Look at some of this, right? This is like images straight out of your dream. Like, what does your dream home look like, right? Or what does your dream library look like, right? Right? Or what is your, check this one out. This one is almost like a mural on the side of a building, but you see how like the father's Rubik's Cube is put together, and then he's helping the child's Rubik's Cube? That is just an awesome chill bump inducing image. Am I right? Well, check this one out. It's like you're behind the wheel of the Bugatti. You're literally behind the wheel. Right? Like honk, honk, like get out the way. And then when we post these on Instagram, we get to use the hashtag #ColorMeMillionaire. And then everybody will be able to search out and see how everybody else used the images. Amazing stuff. But we're not done. What else we just now released is the Millionaires Monthly Mission Manager. You can get both of these at wearemillionaireminded.com. This is for entrepreneurs of all shapes and colors and sizes. It starts off like, who am I? It takes you through it. We just now talked about setting your goals, right? What is your definite mission? What are your goals? Is it to read 6 books, take 2 vacations, learn Spanish, double your business? What are you doing with your goals? How do you intend on, and then, hey, here's one for the entrepreneurs. List your characters and attributes of your perfect customer. Who is your perfect customer, millionaire? That's a goal, right? But then, which of these do you need to work on in your own personality? Don't just list the attributes you want to see in them. Let's take it to the attributes that you need in yourself, since your vibe always attracts your tribe, right? Then what we got? Remember the $400,000 secret we discussed on the last training, where a guy named Ivy Lee taught Charles Schwab a technique that made his company so productive that he gave him the equivalent of $400,000 in today's math? Well, you got it right here. And so what we do is teach you right there how to use this system that you'll see later on in the book, where every day you're writing down the 5 things you need to do that day. Y'all know that as the Affirmation 5 or the Affirmation 3. So we teach you how to use the system right there. But then what's this? This is a profit loss statement for your time. We always talk about how time is money, right? We always talk about how time is money. But do we treat it like money? Well, this is a profit loss statement for your time. What exactly did you do today from 3 to 3:30? Then from 3:30 to 4, from 4 to 4:30, from 4:30 to 5. What did you do? Well, let's write it out. And then give yourself a P if it's profitable, a L if it's a loss, or an N if it was a neutral activity, like something like sleep. Right? You got to love it. And then here's another one to see which of those turn into habits. Which of those turn into habits? That was a practice you had right there. Well, here's the one to kind of utilize. So now you get to see which of those things that you're doing every day are actually habits that are leeching your productivity off. Here's the monthly calendar. I love this. You got the call schedule, 7 days a week, right? Affirmation Nation, every Wednesday, that's where we are right now, Obsessive Success. Sundays, you got the Superwoman Sundays call just for the ladies. Also, how much did you save last month, right? How much did you save last month? And then how much are you going to save this month? Write it in. This is the monthly part of the calendar. You always got like a little tip up there, kind of, right? And then we get to the weekly portion of the calendar. This is for all entrepreneurs. This is for all entrepreneurs. We take it 90 days at a time because no one uses their plan as a whole year, we found out. And we're all about compressing time scales. So this goes right on through to where we start planning out the next year, write out those birthdays, write out those goals. What is it all going to look like? Millionaires, we're really proud of this. You can get them from millionaireminded.com. I hope this was useful to you. I hope that you got some kind of value out of this. They're selling out really, really quickly. So, you know, we're really thankful for that, and we're really, really honored and humbled that you guys have been showing us so much love. I hope this training was useful to you. This was Obsessive Success, episode number 168. And please remember, if you got nothing else from this, please remember, either your mind has to expand to match your goals, or your goals will just shrink to match your mind. Love y'all. Let's grow.